OK. Oh, hi. Just chatting before the show. I've got everybody here. Linda, Debbie, Nadia. Anyone seen Arnie? Does anyone know where Arnie is?
Oh, he's supposed to be here.
Oh, Arnold! There's a door right there.
Come with me if you want to live.
Can I do the monologue first?
Yes.
She's one of the most famous names in music. A New York icon, a muse, an actress, and, of course, the face and voice of Blondie. Her no-holds-barred memoir is called Face It. Please welcome Debbie Harry! It's clever, it's clever. Debbie, Nadia. It's 28 years since this woman first kicked Terminator ass to Sarah Connor. Now she's back in fine form in Terminator Dark Fate. It's a warm welcome to Linda Hamilton! Oh, so good to see you. Get in. I'll do it. And joining Linda is the man who went from bodybuilder to superstar and even did a term as governor of California along the way. He said he'd be back, and he is. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger! So good to see you. Amazing man. You have gone full-out Terminator. It's like leather jacket, yeah.
Well, I also put my face on the front here.
I know, that's subtle.
Because you never can get enough of me.
No, I know. If only there was more Arnie, but now there is.
Well, that's it, exactly. Yeah.
Now, Debbie Harry, talking of being a star, whenever bad things happen to you, your creativity never let you down. Like, how many house fires have you had?
Oh, really only one. Oh, no, two, actually.
Thank you.
I forget everything, it's all right.
Because I think this is a picture after one of your house fires. So this was post the fire, so you lit another fire. To take a picture. But the dress is special in this picture, isn't it?
The dress belonged to Marilyn Monroe, and I was so tipped to be able to wear this dress, you know, to fit into Marilyn's dress.
Yeah.
And it got cooked in the fire, and the material was some early form of synthetic, and it became hard. So it was hard to actually get it on, because it crystallized the fabric. But we all felt very badly that Marilyn's dress also got cooked.
I'm guessing this is jogging no memory for you, Nadia. You've never had a disaster in the kitchen like this.
I've had loads of disasters,
No,
but one in particular, I was baking quite a lot, and it was during bake-off, and my poor oven was on overdrive anyway, and it was making a funny noise. I tried to ignore it, and then I just kind of went down, and it was pastry week, and I was making vol au vents, and the pastry was really delicate, and it was finally working after about 12 goes, and then the oven door blew off, just boom, out into my... And you know how when a kid is about to fall, when your child is about to fall, you just go to save it? That's how I felt about my pastry. I was like, save the pastry! And I kind of lunged, and I grabbed the oven door, and it was boiling hot.
Ow.
And so then kind of it slid down my chocolate-melted skin.
Oh!
And then it was just kind of a bit bloody. And it was a bank holiday. I'd blown the head gasket on the car. So I was just sat there, and I remember just bleeding and very burnt. And I just said, my pastry. And that was it.
But then you won, and it was all fine.
Okay. Yeah.
It took the pain away.
All the pain away.
Yeah. Very good. Right, Terminator is back. Yes, yes. Linda Hamilton and Arnie reunited after 28 years in Terminator Dark Fate. Produced by James Cameron, the original creator and director. It's out on the 23rd of October. So I suppose the big question, Linda, is what has Sarah Connor been doing for the last 28 years?
She's been drinking a lot. Which really worked for me. Vodka and potato chips, pretty much.
Nice,
Yep.
nice. So that's your backstory.
Yep.
No, but I have to say, I was saying to you backstage, Sarah Connor, you look so buff in this film.
Yeah.
So have you... It's so confusing. Has Linda continued the buffness for the 28 years?
No, not at all.
So how hard was this?
Well, you know, it was good hard work to sort of find some level of fitness, but, you know, don't have hormones anymore, so that's a bit different. I worked out, leaned out, worked for a year, didn't have carbohydrates for a year, and then I show up on set, and they're like, well, we have to build you a butt, which is interesting. After a year of working out, you know, and leaning down, they had to actually add ass.
Into your costumes?
Yep.
Wow.
I would take pictures of my tits and ass when I would get up in the morning. I'd get into my trailer and go, send it to my kids. Tits, ass, here we are. We're gonna be fine.
$100 million.
Yeah.
So it really kind of elevated.
But what's amazing is it was the little movie, and then it just became huge. It influenced so many people. Like, 'cause even, I mean, your last album was...
Yes.
Is that where Pollinator came from?
That's where Pollinator came from.
No.
Absolutely. I was sitting there and I was thinking, Terminator. Ah, yeah, the Terminator. Pollinator.
I like that.
Went right to it because of, you know, sort of championing the bees, you know, the threatened bees, the honeybees.
Very good for you.
Yeah.
Pollinator.
So we
Because
pollinated.
Nadia, did you watch these movies?
Well, my fans, the very few that I have, they're called Nadiators. And that's...
Oh, I did not know that.
I know. My husband came up with that. He's like, Nadiators! And that's what they're all called. They call themselves Nadiators. So that's... Yeah.
And then she had to catch up. What is that?
But you know what is the funny thing about the Terminator is because before, when I wanted to become a leading man in Hollywood, I said always, you know, I want to become a leading man, and they said, like, forget about it, Arnold. I mean, we like you. Why don't you open up a health food store or something like that? But you can never become a leading man because you have an accent. And then someone else would say, you have too big of a body. It would never work. And so Terminator was one of those movies where Jim Cameron, during the promotion tour, said, if Schwarzenegger wouldn't have had those muscles, and if Schwarzenegger wouldn't have had this accent and talked like a machine, it wouldn't have worked. So I said to myself, yes, finally I made this liability an asset, you know.
Now, Debbie Harry brings us her new memoir. It's called Face It. Yes, and it's out now. It's out now. And actually, I see that your jacket cleverly matches the book jacket.
Yes,
I get it.
Very good.
thank you.
And now, your life has been extraordinary, but because it's kind of a rock and roll life,
Yes.
are there bits that are a blur to you when it comes to a book like this?
There are many bits that are a blur, but after I've done this, things are coming back to me. Little stories and you know, anecdotes and stuff like that. So this has been a really good thing for me to do.
Because you did a series of interviews with Sylvie Simmons, I think, that the book's
Yes.
based on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you say bits are coming back, so I know you've been doing a book tour and you've been doing Q&A with audiences and stuff. Does that kind of jog your memory when people ask you about things?
Yes, absolutely. And well, also, you know, some of the shows that I've done have been with Chris Stein, my partner, and you know, so he sort of has half of the memory, and then I have the other half. And, you know, so sometimes it folds together nicely, and other times we're just sort of, well...
That's not how I remember it. But I have to say, you talk in the book about all the things you did before Blondie happened, kind of all the other bands you were in, the nearly making it, da-da-da. But when Blondie hit, I didn't realise how fast it was. Like, Plastic Letters and Parallel Lines were sort of in under a year, those two albums.
Well, I didn't even know that myself. Until I was talking to your researchers, and I didn't realize that. But we just were chugging away, chug, chug, chug. And we had this very severe contract that called for 3 albums a year. So most of the time we were on suspension, which meant that, you know, time was added on to the end of our contract. But we just kept chugging like maniacs.
And, you know, we always thought of you as, you were the front woman of Blondie, and you were so kind of, you know, out there, and you seemed so kind of powerful and in control. But did you feel in control at the time? Like, of your image and things like that?
Oh, yes. I mean, I think that in the commercial world, and I'm sure that you recognize this, that once you have established a song or a sound, that the powers that be want you to carry that on and maintain that, because they know that they can market it. And our whole premise was more experimental, and that's how we started. We were very experimental.
And it's interesting now, looking back, because at the time it didn't strike me, but you sang a lot of your songs from a male perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Like one way or another, that's sung by a man.
I sort of dressed like a boy, but I didn't wear a strap-on.
That you remember. It's in the book. No, it's not. And why was that? Was it just because you were in a band with boys, so you were writing the songs?
Yes, well, they wrote the lyrics, and I sort of felt that I, had to represent them somehow, and I felt that some of the stories that they wrote about definitely were not things that I would write about.
Yeah.
So, I sort of devised. I don't know if anybody else understood that or felt that, but if from within, that was where I was pushing it.
Yeah. And in terms of being like that so iconic, the Andy Warhol image, which is so famous. Oh, there you are with Andy, but here's the actual painting. And it's been reproduced so many times, but you still have an original, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're okay?
I'm okay.
I mean, where is it? Is it in your house?
No, it's on the road. See, I sent it out on the road.
It's touring without you.
Yeah, it's touring without me. It's at the Chicago Art Institute right now. There's a very big retrospective of all of Andy's work, which I found a revelation. I mean, I had no idea that he did some of the things that, very early on. He's very a genius, really.
Because you, Arnold, you were kind of part of that world. He was a fan of yours.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Jamie Wyeth, who is a famous painter in America, painted me at that time at Warhol's studio. And then Warhol was there, pretty much every day. And then he took Polaroid shots.
I think we've got some of the Polaroid. There's one of the Polaroids.
He started
there.
painting me also,
Yeah.
That's one of them. But there's one with flexing the muscles, and he liked that one. And it was really all kinds of weird stuff that was going on there. One day I walked in, and Jamie Wyeth was painting me, and I was holding this pose. And the next thing I know is there was this big table, and there was like around 10, 12 naked men coming into the room, and then they were lying on top of the table and on top of each other, and then Andy would rearrange it and all this stuff. And then he would take a shot with a certain lighting. He would take a photograph, a Polaroid, and then he would come to me and he would say, he says, look at this. He says, if you cut this off and you cut this off, it looks like landscapes. I'm going to call it the landscapes. And that's exactly the painting that he did. He just of the asses, kind of like of the man's asses, which is, when really close, you couldn't really tell really what it was, and he didn't paint it that. So he was very creative. He was a genius in the way he went about his art. And at that time, it was not as much appreciated, but I think that when he passed away, people realized of what kind of a great artist he was. And now, of course, his art is selling for $60, $80 million at auctions and $100 million.
So you're okay.
Yeah. Drinks on Debbie.
Just in case you didn't know also, Graham, there is a mural of me in a Gloucester car park. Just thought I'd put that in there.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I feel woefully uninformed.
Just in case you didn't know, it's in a car park in Gloucester.
In Gloucester?
Still.
Still there.
I just came from Gloucester and I didn't see it.
I know. It's not that
Where did you park?
I think they dropped me off.
And in terms of celebrity memoir books, you've had a wild life. There's lots of stories, quite shocking stories in here. But I really wasn't expecting the chapter on thumbs. There's a whole chapter on thumbs.
Yes.
Why is that, Debbie?
I don't know. I just sort of got... Oh, yeah.
I kind of have to look at my thumb now. What is it about thumbs?
Oh,
No, it's not a page.
Right?
It's a chapter.
Whole chapter on thumbs.
Yeah,
Opposable thumbs.
opposable thumbs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think they're so important, and I don't know. I'm allowed.
Of course you are. It's your book. It's your book.
I did it.
Yeah.
Did you find it therapeutic to write?
Yes, I loved it. And I didn't like it at first, but then I grew to love it. I really do like it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we have another memoir tonight. Nadia Hussein's book is called Finding My Voice, and it's out now. And I was talking to you, and you were saying your elder son had read it.
Yeah.
Younger son had started. Has he finished it now?
Well, no, he started and he got through 2 chapters and he said, I like your book, but there are better authors. He just says it like, well, he likes...
Wow.
He likes comics, so he's just a bit like, yeah, it's all right.
I'd say out of the will, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Him out.
Because it's extraordinary that you're here and you're talking to us and you've had all the success on Bake Off and this book, not just because of, you know, some of the things that happened to you, the bullying in school, your anxiety, but also reading the book, you realise that you weren't encouraged to succeed in a way. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a community where the men had opportunities, so they were allowed to go to university, they didn't have a curfew, they could socialise, whereas I couldn't do any of that. I didn't go to university, I wasn't allowed to socialise, and in the end, you know, I worked really hard, worked 2 jobs and got married. So, and that wasn't a bad thing, but it was very tick box. It was just kind of like tick, tick, tick. And it was difficult. And that being said, it's not something that is, you know, just because that was my experience doesn't mean it's all of the Bangladeshi community's experience. Certainly, people had different lives and they've grown up...
Yeah, you're speaking for yourself.
I'm speaking for myself, but in saying that, some of the experiences that I have had, they were very common of the people I was growing up around. And it just got to a point where even when I can write this book and I can laugh about it because I talk about my dad and in the first chapter and and as a nearly 35-year-old, I can laugh about it now. But when you're 11 and you hear the story and you're born and your dad gets the news that 3rd daughter, born healthy, bouncy baby girl, and he says, bastard. Yeah. And when you're 11, you're like, Dad, why? Like, why? But he had so many pressures as a man to produce a boy.
Yeah.
And for such a long time, I was angry and upset with him about that. And actually, I realise now that as a child of an immigrant, it was hard for him. You know, he was this young man who was trying really hard, but the only thing people saw was his brown face and his accent, and that wasn't fair. So he really struggled to kind of find his place in this country, and I always battled kind of Western, Eastern, am I British, am I Bangladeshi, what am I? Never really fitted anywhere. And writing this book for me was really therapeutic as well, because it really made me understand the role that my dad played in my life.
And the book is called Finding My Voice, and I just wanted you to talk about ticking the boxes and you lived the life you were expected to live.
Yeah.
But you were part of this big extended family. What is there, 60-something grandkids?
67 grandkids, I'm going to say now.
And there's...
I don't know the last 20.
Yeah.
But they've all started to look the same now.
And there's 6 of you, 6 kids in your family. So how surprised are they that you ended up being this person?
They don't actually. I think they don't. I think this is just a job. My mum always says to me, whenever I see her, she's like, "Are you done yet? Are you finished?" And I'm not on a jolly. You know, I don't just like go out and have fun. I actually do stuff. I write recipes, and I present and I write, and I spend so much time writing. And she's like, "Are you gonna go home to the kids yet?" I'm like, "They're fine." This summer, I taught them how to cook properly. So now they cook dinner, they go home, they cook dinner. I don't have to do any of that anymore. So it's great. I don't do any of it.
Smart woman. As you're talking of families, Linda, you had that really specific thing growing up. You were a twin.
I was.
And now, we've had male twins on the show talking about how they'd kind of mess around with girlfriends and da-da-da-da. And I'm delighted to know that female twins do the same thing to boys.
Yep. Yes, we played games and kept it interesting as much as possible. You know, had boyfriends that could only tell us apart by our jewelry, so we'd slip into the bathroom.
My mind wanders.
And we would slip into the bathroom, trade jewelry, come out and visit with our other boyfriends. Each
Because
other's
Arnie,
boyfriends
did you meet Leslie? Did you get confused with Leslie?
just once.
I did never know. As a matter of fact, her sister
Leslie.
was on a set.
Our set.
Our set, okay. Yeah. And we did a scene together because there was a scene where she actually lifted out a cylinder out of my head, and which was kind of the energizer. And it was a scene that was supposed to be in a mirror. And so the sister played the other woman, and they looked absolutely identical. It was like so real that it was actually like it looked like a mirror image.
Yeah.
And they had to kind of coordinate how they make the moves and all that stuff, so it looks like a mirror image. It was like really amazing of having a sister that looks exactly like you.
Right.
Yeah.
But Arnold didn't know she was on board until, you know, we were in the trailer and he was just kind of up behind her, kind of close, and then he looked over and saw me. That's my sister!
You don't know that.
I was not so lucky because my twin brother, Danny DeVito,
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
and it's like, it's a little bit easier for her to identify us two, right? Because only our mother can tell us apart.
And Nadia, tell me this, you know, because obviously, you know, you are successful and you're famous and you're on TV, but you're more than that because you are seen as a role model and this inspirational figure. Have you come to terms with that? Is that okay now, or is it a bit of a burden? How do you feel?
I think if you'd asked me 4 years ago, you know, how do you feel about... Because there was a lot of kind of, you're the first Muslim woman to be on television, and if you'd asked me 4 years ago, I would have said, you know what, actually, I kind of want to cook, and I want to do this, and I want to write, but I want it to be incidental. I don't want anyone to just see the Muslim or the brown woman. And actually, 4 years later, now we're sat here and we're having this conversation, I realise the importance of doing the job that I do. And that's why I wrote this book, because there are lots of issues, fun ones, and also really difficult issues in there that I've written about from my experience growing up in the community I did. And what I find is that we don't talk enough. And that's coming from a Bangladeshi girl and a British girl. I think we're quite British and stoic, and we keep a stiff upper lip, and we don't talk about our feelings. And I think, because I suffer with mental health issues as well, I think it's really important for us to learn how to be able to be open and speak. And now, 4 years later, when somebody says to me, do you feel, is it a burden to be where you are? Yeah, it's not easy. Sometimes I lose sleep, and sometimes I really struggle with the job that I do. But there's a thing that I tell my kids. I say, elbows out. There's a rule in our house. I say, whenever you feel like you don't fit in and you feel like there's a place that isn't there for you, you stick your elbows out. I mean, not physically, but, you know, metaphorically.
Yeah.
Get those elbows out and make space. And that's what I say to myself. I say, elbows out, make space, because there are people out there like me who want to do what they love, not necessarily be famous or be on television, but they want to do something that they love and they don't see a space for them. So let's get our elbows out and make space.
Well said, that woman. Very quickly, we haven't talked about politics tonight, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I wondered, do you still consider yourself a politician, or are you more of a kind of an activist or an advocate now?
Well, no, actually, I hate politics. I do. I never, even when I was governor, I never considered myself a politician.
All right.
I always considered myself a public servant. And because to me, the most important thing is not to be so tied up with politics, but more with policy. Create policy that helps the people and that makes life easier for the people so they can get jobs, get more money, have health care, and all the kind of things that government is responsible for creating.
Yeah.
And to bring both of the parties together. We have two-party system, the Democrats and Republicans. I was always a Republican, so I want to make sure that I work with the Democrats. I never saw them as the enemy, like they do in politics, you know, where they fight amongst each other and can't get anything done, like it's happening right now. I think in England, it's happening in America. It's happening in a lot of countries. And I think it really doesn't serve the people well. So to me, being a public servant and not a party servant is much more important.
And, yes. For you, Linda, it must have been so weird that this man you'd worked with, your friend, was running for governor. Dare I ask, did you vote for him?
I did, against my, I mean, I was just like, no way, because, of course, I became the first lady of politics just because I was his co-star. So all of a sudden, my political view mattered. And over the course of the few months, I realized that we had to have Arnold, you know, and I'm definitely registered Democrat, but he just had such a vision, and I voted for Arnold. And not out of loyalty, I voted out of, you know, my political consciousness.
And you talk about bringing parties together. One of the issues that does bring people together is environmental issues. Because, Debbie, I mean, you guys are probably on the same page on environmental issues.
Yes, definitely.
And you recently issued an invitation to Greta Thunberg, is that right?
Yes. First of all, let me just say, this is one of the typical examples that I'm talking about. How can you make the environment a political issue? How can it be like the right is against it and the left is for it? I mean, there is no democratic air or liberal air or conservative air. We all breathe the same air. We all drink the same water. So therefore, how can this be a political issue? We want to have a clean environment. We want to create a clean future for our children and grandchildren. How could this be a political... But the politicians make it a political kind of a subject. As much as they do with healthcare, as much as they do with education, and with all of those subjects. So this is what I hate about politics. You know, they fight over this. So Greta Thunberg is like fantastic because she is a child and she speaks for the children. And the children are the ones that are going to inherit this mess that we are creating. So if we don't straighten out our act, and if we don't get off fossil fuels, and if we don't stop polluting the world and emitting all these greenhouse gases that is killing 7 million people a year right now, and create global warming, if we don't do something about it, it's the children that are going to really suffer the consequences. And this is why her message is so important.
It's really time for music, but exciting news for art lovers. People have been backstage squirreling away, and I can announce that we have found an image of that mural in the Gloucester car park of Nadia Hussein. Here's there she is! Beautiful! Actually, it's really nice.
Wonderful! Yeah, I love it.
I can't believe you missed it, Debbie. I know. Wasting your time in Gloucester. Beautiful. DJs were really good. Come in, meet everybody. Arnold, Linda, Debbie, Nadia. Thank you very much. And thanks for bringing the orchestra and everything. And that is from the album Garage Classical, which is out now. It's got all sorts of people on it, like Riley Ritchie, Lily Allen, Emily Sandé, and, of course, you guys, yes. And you've got one more gig left, is that right?
Yes, we're doing the Royal Albert Hall next week, so that's a big one.
But also, like, for you, because I know someone was saying you did the Barbican Centre and stuff. Like, DJs don't get to perform in those places. No. What's it like?
The Barbican one was, it was funny in the sense of, it's a quite, let's just say, snotty art centre. Well, it's not snotty, no, I shouldn't say that. It's a lovely art centre. And first track, everyone was sitting down, being quite arty, and then they started looking around at each other, really wanting to dance, and it was like a Mexican wave. And the whole venue was up within about 6 minutes. Security didn't know what to do because they couldn't really start telling people to sit down. But yeah, that was phenomenal. So we're hoping to go and do it again at the Royal Albert Hall. Exactly the same thing.
And for you guys, I've known you forever.
I know.
Like 20 years, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
Wow. Next year will be.
Yeah. So being on this album, is this a one-off, or are you back in the world? What's the story?
No, we're actually working on music, and we plan to put something special together for our fans.
It's the 20th anniversary next year.
What, because this isn't special?
No, this is a no-brainer.
This is special.
You know, we grew up with garage music, so it was a no-brainer. We wanted to do this, and
so. And when you say something special, do you mean I don't know, like?
That's what we're working on at the moment.
We're
working on something.
Yeah.
A car? What do you?
That'd be good. Bonus cars. Yeah.
I don't think the fans would be happy with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's great to have you back. DJ Spoony, thank you so much for that. Great performance. There you go. Very good. Very quickly, I think we do have time to go into the big red chair, so let's do it. Who's there? Hello, sir. Hey. Do you know him?
No.
Oh, okay, so there's an odd noise. What's your name, sir?
My name is George.
George, lovely. And where are you from, George?
I'm from Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia. Oh, yes, Fred, yeah, yes. He doesn't look Australian, does he?
No?
No. I'm not seeing him on a surfboard, are you? No.
Graham, his jumper matches the chair. Execute him.
No, DJ Spoony, it's not, no. Oh. No, DJ Spoony. We're nice at it. So, George, do you live here now?
I do.
Marvellous. What do you do?
I'm a freelance motion designer and video editor.
All right, George, off you go with your story.
Well, I was 5 years old in kindergarten. It was show and tell day, and my teacher called me up to the front of the class. I was so excited. Started telling everyone the story of how I stayed up way past my bedtime the night before to watch the greatest movie I'd ever seen, and that movie was Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
Bravo. I like that.
We can't live it now.
I like this so far.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
I started telling the story in gruesome detail, acting out every scene. I looked out at my kindergarten audience and their faces were in awe. And then I saw my teacher, shocked, running towards me to take me straight off stage. Oh. And she was appalled that I had done that the night before.
Similar to that. Similar. It was nice that he liked your film, but the story didn't really go anywhere. In fact, DJ Spoony's instincts were correct. I stand correct. OK, who's up?
It was such a sweet story.
It was a lovely story. He loved your film.
He loved your story. I love the story.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. What's your name?
My name is Dean.
Dean, lovely. And what do you do, Dean?
I'm an assistant accountant.
An assistant accountant? Oh, he holds the calculator. Yes, very good. Now, Dean, here's a tip. Mention one of Arnold's films, say you like it, and it'll go very well for you. But off you go with your story.
OK, so my story is about autocorrect. So I woke up... No, it's good, I promise.
You weren't doing that, were you?
It's good.
No. Wait.
So I woke up one morning and
I
wasn't feeling very well, so I decided I'd text my manager and tell her I wasn't going to be in.
Oh, this could be good.
So I sent the message and I said, I'm not going to be in today, I'm not feeling very well. I've been up vomiting all night. I had 5 guys last night and I'm a mess this morning. So, no, wait. So,
5 Guys is a sort of burger.
5 Guys is a burger chain.
Okay.
5 Guys is a burger chain.
Yeah.
So she texted me back and she said, is this some kind of joke? Because I don't think it's funny. So I was really confused. So I read the message back and my phone had autocorrected vomiting to bottoming.
That is it. That's all we've got time for. If you'd like to have a go in the red chair yourself and tell your story, you can just contact our website at this very address. Please say a huge thank you to all of my guests tonight. DJ Spoony and the Sugababes! Nadia Hussein! Debbie Harry! Linda Hamilton! And Arnold Schwarzenegger! Join me next week with musical guests Camila Cabello, comedian Ross Noble, Oscar winner Regina King, and Hollywood stars Emilia Clarke and Jason Momoa. I'll see you then. Good night, everybody. Bye!